What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Out of the Basement. Nate here, and today I'm going to be bringing you my review of Scooby-Doo Return to Zombie Island. This is the brand new direct-to-video sequel to the animated classic Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island, something that I hold pretty near and dear to my heart. Of course, prime time when it was originally released 20 years ago. I was only 6, and it was the perfect way to get me into Scooby-Doo and also sort of put that little seed in my mind that I would become, the horror fan that I am today. I think Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island has a lot to do with that. From the darker tone and the overall raised stakes of the original movie and some genuinely scary moments, accompanied by some awesome music that I would love to play right here, but I am not trying to get a copyright strike. But if you have seen the movie, you know the songs I'm talking about. Those are classic songs that I still honestly enjoy to this day, and I still think Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island, the original, is highly entertaining and watchable even as an adult. So initially, when there was headlines and whispers of a sequel to Zombie Island, of course, I was instantly curious. It's been such a long time. They've never really addressed Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island in any of the shows or any other movies since then, at least as far as I'm aware. So I was like, okay, I was a little apprehensive, of course, because it's been so long, and what could you really do to add on to the story of Zombie Island, being that the ending is pretty conclusive, in my opinion. Now, I know, obviously, this movie is aimed at kids, specifically pretty young kids, as Scooby-Doo normally is. However, you have to imagine that they would throw some stuff in there for people like me who watched the original when they were younger and sort of wanted to rope us back in, at least for one more movie. So in that regard, that is why I felt compelled to review this, because normally I wouldn't really review like a kid's movie or something like that, unless it was something, like this, special to me. And I gotta say, Scooby-Doo Return to Zombie Island is a massive disappointment. Initially, I was pretty excited when the movie started, being that Matthew Lillard actually voices Shaggy in this movie, which is easily the best part of the entire thing. Of course, the Scooby-Doo live-action movies are also something that I loved when I was little, and I still do enjoy as an adult. I pretty regularly watch the first one. As most of you know, there's plenty of adult humor in Scooby-Doo, the live-action movies. So I was hyped. I was ready to go. But unfortunately, the storyline, the animation, the music choices, a lot of it all just culminates into a really bad 80 minutes. And 80 minutes that felt way longer than it should have. So the general story of Scooby-Doo Return to Zombie Island is that Shaggy wins a vacation from Elvira. Actually, there is an Elvira cameo in the movie, and that is pretty cool as well. I'm not like super into Elvira, but it was, I was kind of like, oh, it's a cute little cameo for people who are older. So obviously, I don't think any young kids really know who Elvira is. So that was a little bit of something for the adults, which was nice. But that's pretty much where the good parts end. They go back to Zombie Island, which is, of course, Moonscar Island. And Shaggy and Scooby are on vacation, so they do not want to solve any mysteries, while Fred, Velma, and Daphne are dying to solve a mystery on the island. And they start noticing that the island is very familiar to something that happened to them 20 years ago, which has always been something that's funny about Scooby-Doo, especially in this movie. The sheriff of the town calls them kids, but they recognize that something happened to them 20 years in the past and actually say, 20 years ago. So it's kind of funny that they're still, supposed to be teens, but they clearly reference things that happened a long time ago. And this movie does have a lot of meta moments throughout, with some jokes about found footage, some jokes about the horror movies, Hollywood in general, and how The movies these days have to be giant cash cows or else they're considered failures. So there's some of that stuff where I was kind of like, this is pretty clever. One of the main characters in the movie, his name is Alan Smithy, which is the pseudonym for when a director wants to be removed from a project. So there's some funny moments in there for some people that are, kind of into Hollywood and film in general, maybe a little bit of horror as well. But the found footage jokes, kind of 5 years too late, if I'm going to be honest with you. But anyways, they don't want to solve any mysteries, Scooby and Shaggy, but things keep unfolding, and eventually it is revealed that they are, yes, on Moonscar Island, and the zombies and cat people have returned. Now, I don't necessarily want to spoil anything, just in case you're interested, but I will say that the big twist of this movie is a pretty stupid one, pretty generic, cliche, goes completely against the original animated classic and what that movie set up for. Return to Zombie Island also completely lacks the darker tone of the original. The designs for the zombies and the cat people are way more cartoony, way more kid-friendly, and I mean, the designs weren't all that crazy to begin with in Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island, but in the original, they at least were pretty scary. There's definitely some moments in there that could get a little intense for younger viewers, but this movie, it's just so plainly marketed towards kids, and it's so safe and sanitized. It's not even a little bit creepy, which I thought was pretty disappointing, being a follow-up to Zombie Island. And I mentioned earlier that the animation was pretty lacking, and throughout the entire movie the animation is super low budget. Obviously, I know it's a direct-to-video sequel, but how does this movie look worse than the original movie that was made over 20 years ago? The animation is legitimately worse. I don't know how to explain it. You'll get background paintings, and only one character will be moving on screen while the rest of them are all, frozen in place, which is fine. I'm no stranger to low-budget animation. One of my favorite animated things of all time is the 1997 Berserk series, which is notorious for its insanely low-budget animation. But there is a way to make it work, and in Scooby-Doo Return to Zombie Island, it is just so stilted and boring. There's no visual flair to the movie at all. The action is very blocky, it's very chunky, and the entire movie is genuinely pixelated, because whatever rendering software they must have used is old and outdated. The movie is only available on DVD, so I watched it on a DVD, and even for a DVD, it looked terrible. The entire movie was pixelated, the main menu was pixelated, and not pixelated in a way like DVDs are when you watch them on an HD TV nowadays, but pixelated as in the actual rendering of the footage was bad, was a poor render, probably super low quality, like 480p. It had to be, and it really hurts the enjoyment of the movie. And of course, the music is also a big thing I found really disappointing. The songs in Zombie Island were more of like a punky rock style, a little bit edgier kind of music than we were used to in Scooby-Doo, and this movie goes the normal Scooby-Doo route and plays like the classic, surf rock tunes that we're all pretty accustomed to in the Scooby-Doo world. And that was just a little bit of a disappointment. This movie just doesn't have the spirit the original had. It comes off as just a cash grab on fans like me, who, people my age also could potentially have kids by now and go, hey, I watched the first one when I was a kid and they just made a second one, so I'm gonna, buy it and sit down and watch it with my kids. And it totally just is a blatant disappointment. It brings nothing new to the table. It adds nothing to the story. The storyline in general is tired, old, same old Scooby-Doo. Nothing really interesting or unique in this movie compared to the original classic. One thing I will say, though, is the voice actor for Velma is not good. Her voice is way too nasally, and it really is grating on the ears watching this movie. Anytime Velma was speaking, I legitimately wanted to plug my ears, and I watched this movie with my girlfriend, and we were both just scratching our heads at this Velma voice. It's genuinely awful, and Velma has a lot to say in this movie too, so it's kind of like Please stop. Please stop. But whatever. At the end of the day, though, I fully recognize that this is just a kids' movie made for kids, and I'm probably judging it a little bit more harshly than I should, but I just felt really annoyed by this movie and felt like little betrayed. Felt like maybe Scooby-Doo was actually going to try and do something a little bit more darker and edgier like Zombie Island, but that is not the case, and this is clearly just a sequel in name and a desperate cash grab to try and get some more money out of older Scooby-Doo fans and just people who like Scooby-Doo in general. So that is my review of Scooby-Doo Return to Zombie Island. I definitely would not recommend this movie if you are a fan of the original and you're somewhere around my age, you know, your mid-20s. Definitely avoid it. It's not for you. There are a couple moments here and there that are nice, but overall it is not worth the entire watch. So what did you think of Scooby-Doo Return to Zombie Island? Let's talk about it in the comments down below. Of course, this is a little bit of a weird review. Like I said, I normally don't review kids content or anything like that unless it's truly something special to me. So I just felt like I had to get it off my chest. Like I just had to talk about how awful the movie was. If you enjoyed my review, don't forget to leave a like on this video, subscribe if you are new, ring the bell for notifications. We're always talking about movies, action figures, Blu-rays, all that sort of good stuff. Share this video with your friends. Of course, I'm Nate, and I will see you guys next time on Out of the Basement.